Join us as we dive into the history, hauntings, and high strangeness of the world to try to better understand the paranormal. I will be your guide. I am paranormal researcher and investigator Eric Freeman-Sims. Welcome to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Today we're chatting with author and YouTube podcast host Sysco Murdoch. Sysco is the co-author of We Are All Children in the Wilderness of The Afterlife, a guided tour through a haunted life, where she chronicles many of her experiences in the paranormal, supernatural, and high strangeness. She is also the host of the weekly YouTube show Journey Through the Gate Paranormal Portal podcast. Sysco's book is available on Amazon, Kindle, and wherever fine books are sold. And make sure to go and subscribe to her YouTube channel to hear many more of her personal encounters and the great guests she chats with. Hey, Sysco, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. I'm so excited for boo season. It can't get here fast enough, but I want it to slow down because it goes so fast. But it's just, gosh, you can feel it in the air, and everybody's starting to get excited. You know, it's Halloween all year round in my house. I never put my inside decorations. You know, when you do a podcast, I'm surrounded by all these jack-o'-lanterns and black cats and witches and stacks of skulls and crows, and you know, it's just fantastic. You know?
That's how my office is. You've seen my background that I do the video with, and I've got skulls and Bigfoots and all kind of things all around all the time.
Yeah, it's neat, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's like you know, really liking to play toys, and you grow up, you get to own a toy store,
right?
You know, you don't have to stop enjoying what you love. You know, that's the great thing about this, and you never get tired of hearing the stories. You know, every ghost story, every Bigfoot sighting, every dog man, every rougarou, every, you know, cryptid. I mean, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, and they're all different. Like everybody has a different experience when they see the same things, but it's always a different experience.
And a different vantage point as well.
Right. Different
point of view. And, you know, it's, I mean, I don't know where you want to start off, but one of the things I wanted to say right out of the gate is basically I've had experiences all my life. I haven't always understood them. And I think that was the thing, not being able, in my generation, you know, I've been looking into this 50 years. That's a long time.
Yeah. And
to be able to say, even after that, I have more questions than I have answers. I have very flexible theories that I'm comfortable with at this point in time, and things that I feel like I know for sure. You know, like love never dies.
Yeah.
You know, that continues on. I can honestly say at this point, I have zero doubt in that, you know, and that's saying something. But the other stuff, it's always, you know, it like I said, it's very flexible. It's a flexible theory because everybody likes to put everything in little tight categories, little neat boxes or file and put them in a file cabinet.
Right.
And as you go through this, you find out that things bleed over into other things. You know, I honestly, at this point, believe all of it's connected one way or another, you know, as are we.
Yeah, I've talked about that here on the show, especially people putting things in boxes. And that's why some people, I think, don't have paranormal experiences as much as others. Because people like me and you, we're like to hell with the boxes, you know?
Yeah. It's like, show me what you got, you know, what, you know, what's going on. And again, I'm not, you know, people ask me, are you a paranormal investigator or a ghost hunter? And I'm like, you know, not really. I'm more like ghost find me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain that. It's like, I don't have to, it's like going to a bar and trying to prove that there's beer there. To me, It's like ghosts are everywhere. It's just, what frequency are they vibrating on? Are they interested in talking to you? Or are they just going about their day? Are they stuck in a loop? Is it residual? Is it intelligent? You know, there's so much there, and there's ghosts everywhere, you know, which I always laugh when, well, no, I try not to laugh, but it tickles me when people say, it's a brand new house. I can't understand why it would be haunted. Well, honey, the ground was here before. You know, if you have somebody in your home that has like what we would say a brighter light, like everybody casts a different energy. And, you know, if you're someone who has I guess, you could just say a brighter light, like your aura, your abilities, everything. Everybody has a light. It's just we tend to dim it off and on, and throughout time, different things happen in our life, whether it might be depression or addiction or just trying to keep up with the 9 to 5, 6-7 days a week. For a lot of people, just getting through the grind, you get on this almost like this constantly moving escalator of life and your treadmill kind of thing. And you just don't have that time to just relax even for yourself, let alone, wandering earthbound spirits who might need help. Your light, you're barely keeping it on for yourself, let alone anybody else. But it's almost like, if you imagine walking for an earthbound spirit or an earthbound ghost, I believe in a lot of cases it's very much like they're stuck in their own perception.
Yeah.
So they could see the house the way it was before, or say in the famous case of Ghost or Us. A lot of people have heard about Yanni Janssen, who's back in the 70s. It was very famous, and was put on a lot of shows back then, so people often heard about it. But basically what happened with him is he was a simple farmhand who you could say he was probably a little slow, or maybe it had a head injury at some point in time in his life, and it just took him a little longer to express himself, and which is probably why he wound up as a wandering farmhand, going from one farm to the next. Well, this one plantation hired him, and he was there for a while, and he got to really like the daughter of the people who hired him, and he would see her all the time, and just from afar, fell in love with her, started writing her letters to express himself, and she just got put off by this. She's just this rich girl going on about her life, and actually went and told him, I'm getting married. I don't know what you're thinking here. And basically just shut him down. And she took off, and he's out there chopping wood. He's angry, and he slipped with the axe, cut his leg very badly, barely made it to some little shack that he was staying in, and basically bled to death, and went into, slowly slipped away. So when he went out, when he left this earth plane, all he could think of was her. And I want another chance to express myself. I could, I don't have much to give you. I mean, his letters were deep, very passionate, full of love. And that was the last thing he had in his mind, before the fever got him, and heaven knows what he was thinking before he, completely winked out, But when he came back, or actually stayed, he was seeing this today like it was then. He saw the farm, he saw a familiar lake, his wood pile, his shed, and then every once in a while his world would bleed into ours. And now he's in a toy store, a Toys R Us, where this farm used to be. And just his energy walking through there would set toys off and set things flying. And it was a pretty interesting case, because finally everybody got together and did a little history on the place, found out about this farm and this Elizabeth that he loved, and I guess dug up some of the letters of the Historical Society and put it all together and got a good medium, and they all sat down and collectively thought, we want to help you. And he actually showed up, and they got a picture of him standing in the hall, still in his old jeans and work shirts and everything else. And he was just saying, I'm looking for Elizabeth. They were trying to tell him, she's not here, honey. She's on the other side. You can find her there. So, I mean, that's a famous case where you have so much in one story. You've got your history. You've got your, person leaving, distraught, probably angry, scared.
Yeah.
And was not leaving without her. He just continually, he couldn't understand why he couldn't find her, because who knows, as he's trying to go towards the house that he sees. And, the next thing he knows, he's bleeding into this world and seeing toys and people dressed funny and kids running around bouncing balls and, workers that run and scream when he shows up and he doesn't understand what's going on. And if you think about ghosts that way, that ghosts were people too, and they had a life and they're trying to understand what happened, if you can even get them that far. Some don't even know they're dead, and just running around and angry trying to get attention,
Yeah.
But if you can get that kind of history on something, then you can start, if you can communicate, find a way to communicate with them. And it's like therapy, it takes a little bit sometimes. But that story right there's got a lot in it.
That reminds me of a story in Nashville, kind of in the old money rich part of Nashville called Green Hills. There's a mall, and it's the mall that has like Louis Vuitton and all the expensive shit in it. And that's where all the old money rich people go. But the Dillards is haunted by a guy who is dressed like somebody from the 1700s. And he's been seen by many of the employees in the dressing rooms. They've seen him knock purses off of shelves and just do all kinds of, mayhem in this Dillards. And people are like, why would he be in the Dillards? Well, from what I heard, and I don't know the exact history on that particular guy, but there used to be a farm there, going way, way back.
Right.
And Nashville was settled in the late 1700s, 1770 something. And so, but people are like, why would Dillards be haunted? Well, this guy is probably tied to the land, and that, original farm was probably his original settlement. And before Nashville was populated. And now he's just pissed off that he's stuck in this Dillards,
Could be.
Yeah.
And, also, here's something that I found out through the years, too, that's very interesting. A lot of times, it reminds me of the old, Night of the Living Dead, the second or third one, Dawn of the Dead, when they were all going to the mall.
Yeah.
And in the beginning of that, they explain, well, they're just going where they normally would.
Yeah.
They're drawn to that. Well, Earthbound Spirits, Earthbound Ghosts are as well, because of the people, the activity, the energy, that people are giving off, as well as all the lights and all of the gadgets and everything else. That's a hub of energy right there. And they would be drawn to that. Something else, when people are saying this, like, I've just a brand new house, blah, blah, blah. Well, I went to this one to show you kind of how Earthbound kind of works. I was given a jury, I'm also a jury teacher, I'm a wire sculptor. And I was given a class, and one of the ladies that took it, I tend to draw people that are into the metaphysical because I work a lot with gemstones.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of natural that some would be there. So we got to talking, and I had a regular student, and she comes up, she's gone about a month, she comes for another more advanced class, and she says, she came early. And she said, I wanted to ask you something. I said, sure, go ahead. She goes, I don't know how you feel about ghosts and all this other stuff, but I have a feeling you probably know something that's picking up kind of an energy. And I'm like, yep, just move to the end. We're good. What do you got? She said, well, there's this one girl, very sweet. She's about 26. She has a 3-year-old boy. And she has abilities. And since she was young, her abilities are very similar to Sixth Sense, the young boy in Sixth Sense. I see dead people.
Yeah.
She saw them all her life. She managed to get through all of that without, having somebody giving her a lot of medication because they thought she was seeing things or she was schizophrenic or anything like that. She made it through that whole part, which a lot of people don't. So that's, huge on her. She either had family that supported her or somebody she could talk to. And it's very hard in this. If you have abilities and you're young, I highly recommend you seek a couple of different people who have gone through it and gotten on the other side in the light, because you can go down some dark path just trying to get it to stop. But
yeah,
she was able to do it, but her 3-year-old was starting to see them and picked up the abilities as well, and she wanted to get some help. So this one lady who came, the jewelry student, she was into Wicca, and I believe there was another one too. I can't remember what it was, but honestly, at the core, they're all similar, very similar. Native, Wicca, there's so much that is nature, energy, this is what it is, you know? So she says, I've got some people. Why don't you come over and we'll all talk about it so we can give you some tools to use to, you know, help your son. And I went, stop right there. I know exactly what happened. And she says, what do you think happened? I said, well, when she got there, you all gathered. Nobody knew what to do. So you brought your ghost. They brought their ghost. She brought hers. And you guys are standing out in the front lawn gathering everybody else that's hanging around. And it's like turning on a porch light in the middle of the night. And all, you know, like all the bugs are drawn to the light.
Right.
Because how did you know? And I'm like, because it happens all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, but, you know, she didn't quite know how to do it. So now you've got like 5 people that are all trying to help each other. This girl barely made it to the front porch because she was just getting bombarded. And they come up and they started, where she sees them, they're coming at her and they're just start yelling their stuff all at the same time because they want help or they want your attention.
Right.
And the strongest ones are going to make it to the front. And they didn't know how to shut it off. And this one guy, I would imagine probably passed in a motorcycle accident around the late 50s that we could kind of peg. And what happened to this poor guy? He actually died almost a mile up the road. But because all this gathered light was coming together with the best intentions, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a couple of them could see them all coming from everywhere.
Yeah, you know? Like a big lighthouse in the dark.
Exactly. So he comes up and he had a very intense energy and, you know, had just been hanging around that area since his accident. And the reason his energy was so intense is this guy was on his way to ask his girl to marry him. He had finally paid up the ring, had it in the little box in his inside of his motorcycle pocket. And he's racing to go and see her and prepare for the night and everything else and got T-boned and died instantly. Well, while he was still at the accident, he was hanging, you know, and kind of looking at his body and wondering what was going on and trying to piece everything together. He sees the EMT guy patting him down and pickpockets the ring. And he sees all this, and then they take off, and he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't follow, I guess. I don't know. But he was kind of kept himself stuck there with his anger and his agitation and everything. God bless him, you know. So he finally sees this light. He goes running over there. You got to tell her what I was going to do. You have to tell my girlfriend. So she tries to just get him to stop and get out of her face and says, tell me what you want me to tell your girlfriend. I'll tell her. And I'm like, oh, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
But it was too late. We had to go and unravel all this stuff. But you don't want to promise him something you don't even know if you can do. I mean, gosh, if it's the 50, she's probably past it. You don't even know. You know, you don't want to promise, like, if you rap on the table, I'll give you candy. I hate that. You know,
right.
Help them. You know, they're using their energy. You know, you don't know how long it's going to take them to get more. So anyway, they wound up getting everybody quieted down. They were able to help one woman, older woman that had been there since the 1880s, I guess, looking for her kids. And then finally this girl is just, you know, just racked and, you know, the energy pulled out of her and everybody's just trying to get everything to stop. And the reason she came that night to speak to me was because she said, well, do you know anybody that can, because that guy's still hanging around on the porch now. I said, yeah, because you promised him you were going to tell his girlfriend. You know, what you should have done is, you know, seen, okay, let's figure out, you know, is this something we can do?
Right.
You know, and see if you can calm them down. In other words, don't promise them something and leave them hanging like that because now it's more agitation stuff. But I mean, think about them as real people. You see what I mean? And you have to understand where they're at, what's their abilities, what's going on with them.
Right.
You know, and because not every cup that flies across your kitchen is a demon. It could be the only thing they can do.
Yeah. And that's how I approach investigating and that's, you know, when I do events that we put on where people buy tickets and come to investigate with us, you know, that's how I approach it is I let them know they're just people on a different plane. And I always tell them if they were an asshole in life, probably going to be an asshole in death. And I've been doing this for a long time.
An asshole.
Yeah. And you know they're going to do whatever they can to get your attention. It doesn't mean that because you get scratched or pushed or something flies across the room, like you said, it's not necessarily a demon. That might be the only way that they can get your attention.
Exactly. and don't jump to conclusions.
Right.
I mean, either way, it's like when somebody says, well, every time I walk into the kitchen, I'm just making this up off the top of my head. Every time I walk into the kitchen, knives fly out of the drawer and stick into the cabinet. That's just my daddy saying hi. He must be having a good. Wait a minute, hold on, what? It's like you're jumping to conclusions, and then it goes the other way too. To where it is, your mom banging cabinets, but she's mad because you moved the spices from the one cabinet to the other, and she's just agitated by that, and that's what she knows right now, and that's what she's doing.
Right.
She might not even be earthbound. She might be what I call a visitation spirit, where they've crossed over, but they've come back. It's like Lincoln. We just did this huge thing with Lincoln. It's like 5 episodes or something, from how his mother died to what's happened since. It's probably one of the most profound ghosts, not just in the White House, but in the Capitol and all these other places. And they were talking about Ford Theater. And I'm reading the accounts from witnesses throughout the decades. And really, in Ford's Theater, where, of course, Lincoln was shot in Washington, D.C., and that's also where John Wilkes Booth and his brother Edwin performed for the most part. There was several theaters in Washington, D.C. That was one of the most prominent ones.
Yeah.
So when he was shot, they basically shut that down as a theater for about 100 years. I could be off a decade or two. It was office buildings and things like that, because they just didn't think it was right to open it up as a theater again. It was disrespectful, yada, yada. So somewhere around 100 years later, I guess whoever's in charge decided it was enough time. They opened it up and created theater and renovated it and everything. And they start doing plays there. There had been no sighting in that theater of any ghosts that had been reported for that time. It was office space. As soon as they created it opened it back up as a theater, everybody started seeing things. Things started happening. And one of the things that happened most frequently is there would be a glowing light in the balcony where Lincoln and Mary and the Hawthornes were that night, where Booth shot him. And even though it's locked off and nobody can go up there, if there was a performance, there would be a glowing, hazy light. And it happened multiple times. So they automatically said, well, that's Lincoln. And then one night, around 1974, 75, they did a play about Martin Luther King called I Have a Dream. And in that play, the actor playing Martin Luther King is doing a speech on how much he admired Lincoln and why he admired him and why he held him up as a mentor and, a guide for, things he was going through that day. It was full of admiration, basically. And at that point in time, they heard this bang, almost like a microphone that's live being dropped on a heavy wooden stage floor that's hollow underneath. I'm definitely going to get an echo and a big bang. Everybody heard it. Everybody in the audience, everybody. Then they heard running from stage left, right down the middle of the stage, to stage right, and I heard the door to the alley open and then slam, and everybody heard it. It stopped the play.
Wow. And
they all just kind of looked at each other, and after it was all over, of course, that act anyway, everybody, all the stagehands are going, who did that? What was going on? I can't figure out the source. And they start talking about how they heard the back door open, which is exactly the path that Booth took, by the way.
Yeah, he jumped down onto that side of the stage.
Right there in front of stage left, and ran across center stage and then out the back door and into the alley where Spangler was holding his horse waiting. So they go and they open up the door and they find a microphone that they had been using that night, of course, without cable, thrown out into the alley. But nobody saw it. Nobody saw it go across the stage, and nobody did it. Nobody was back there to do it. So automatically they're thinking, okay, well, this was Lincoln. And I'm going, no, that was Booth. Do you see the difference?
Right.
They just keep saying it's Lincoln, it's Lincoln, it's Lincoln. Nobody's ever seen his apparition there, as far as I know, in that balcony, just the light. And I'm thinking, change your thinking a little bit and think, what if that's Booth? Because I have some inside information. One of my good friends, Rob Guttrow, who's a fantastic animal communicator, he actually went to a play there. They were doing Christmas Carol this last Christmas, and Rob is very good at shutting off and blocking, when he's, going to look in history, or went to England. I don't know how he survived. because he's very much like that light that everybody, oh my gosh, you can hear me, all at the same time,
Yeah.
all on different frequencies and all in your face, and oh my gosh, it's a lot. So he does a thing where he shuts down. You can still see them, but they'll look at him and go, not now, I'm kind of off, So he was going about his evening, and he was waiting for somebody to meet him or something. He's in the gift shop, and he's trying to just stay busy, and he's pulling books down off the shelf and looking through them and looking at all the stuff and everything. It's a lovely little place the way they have it made up. And he says, all of a sudden, he gets hit with this arrogant, strong male energy that, and he's getting all this stuff off of this guy. It's like he's trying to ignore it. And the guy is really strong. And finally, he just figures, okay, I'm just going to talk to him and see what he wants, because obviously he's not going away. And he's holding a book at this point in time where he just looks over and goes, okay, what is it? I'm off tonight. I can't do this right now. And he said, I don't need help. He said, I just wanted to let you know that, you're reading one of my books. That's me. And he turns the book over and looks at the cover, and it was about John Wilkes Booth.
Wow.
And he said it was one of the strong, and this guy has walked through castles in England and bumped into monks, that are 900-year-old ghosts and stuff, But he was so shut down, he was not putting two and two together. And he's trying not to get a good look at this guy because he doesn't want to engage. And then he puts two, and it's Booth. And I told him, I said, of course, he didn't get the recognition when he died he thought he was going to get. They never printed his manifesto. He didn't get the cheers and the celebrations, but he gets talked about there. Why wouldn't he be drawn there?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he be upset when MLK's character was talking about how much he admired Lincoln, and then caused? But remember what I did? Bang, run out the back end.
Yeah.
That's how I see it anyway.
Well, and he finally had an audience again.
Yeah. Good way to put it. Absolutely. But the whole point of that is, just because you see something like that, you can't assume it's Lincoln. It could have been anybody. It could have been Mary. It could have been Hawthorne. The poor guy went absolutely nuts after that. He was never the same after all that. But are you aware of that? The guy that went with him, the young corporal?
No.
With Lincoln, Mary more than Lincoln, but tried to get all these different people to go. They went through the whole Rolodex of people. Grant turned them down. All these different people turned them down. And a lot of people blame Mary because, let's face it, God bless her, she came by it honest, but she was batshit crazy. And she would always do all these outbursts in public and things. So people just, kind of shied away from her. And they got this one young couple, Colonel Hawthorne and half-sister Clary, was dating. Anyway, he never got over the PTSD from being in that balcony. And Booth cut him with a Bowie knife and cut his artery in his arm, and all of the blood that people keep saying was Lincoln's blood. They sold curtains and dresses and pillows and rugs and carpet. That's not Lincoln's blood, it was Hawthorne's. Lincoln bled very little from his head wound, and everything went down the carpet and onto Lord King's dress. But anyway, the man absolutely went nuts and used to act it out in his sleep. I could have done this. I could have done this. Actually went nuts. And Claire, who he married, his half-sister, they had two kids. She caught him coming up the stairs with a Derringer and a Bowie knife and going into the kids' room, and she managed to wrestle him away, got in the bedroom where he shot her, and then cut himself up. By the time the cops or whatever got there, the bobbies, whatever they were back then, got there to stop him. He was cutting himself all up. He wound up 27 years in an insane asylum, and of course she died.
Wow.
I mean, the Lincoln thing just goes on and on forever. So many rabbit holes with that. But there's a lot of haunting.
There's all kind of weird synchronicities around Lincoln, and Lincoln's son went on to be around a bunch of other presidents that were attempted assassinations. And
3.
Yeah.
Thomas. Yeah, 3 of them. Yeah. McKinley and Garfield, I believe. And he was actually saved. He fought to get in because, Mary. And they lost Eddie at 4 in Springfield, Illinois. And then, of course, Willie died drinking the water, got typhoid fever, and died at 11 in the White House. And then Tad lived to be, after his father's death, he lived to be 18, and then he passed. Thomas was the only one that lived. But he fought with Lincoln. He said, you got to let him join. He wants to join. And because Thomas wanted to go in like everybody else in the Civil War. So he joins the Union, and Lincoln sets him up with Grant out in the West, where he figured at least he'd be safe out there and everything. Well, Grant winds up tearing up in the West, won a lot of battles out there. But the whole thing about Thomas is he's at the train station with a bunch of other soldiers ready to go back to his unit. And there's a lot of pushing and shoving. He gets knocked over, gets wedged between the wall, and the train tracks are dipped down like a valley, kind of a dugout, just like I guess subways and stuff are now. And the train is coming. He's stuck. He can't get up. And a man reaches down and grabs him by the back of the uniform coat and pulls him up and saves his life. It's Edwin Booth, John Wilkes Booth's brother.
Wow. And
neither one of them knew who they were until after. Yeah. And Grant wrote a letter of appreciation to Edwin Booth. And Edwin Booth went nuts reading that in his later life because he was so ashamed of what John Wilkes had done. It's crazy. It's an amazing story.
Yeah. Yeah, everything surrounding that is just crazy.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that interesting that, nobody reported in what was Ford's Theater, nobody reported any hauntings with it being, office buildings and things like that throughout the years. But once they put that energy of the theater back in there and the performances,
exactly.
Yeah, it kind of brought a bunch of that back. That's pretty amazing.
And then everybody's talking about him and stuff like that. So again, we don't want to assume he's an earthbound spirit and stuck there.
Right.
I can't imagine Booth crossing unless he had some help getting over, because he was just so, the way you really have to like read his letters and the way he spoke and stuff like that. I think he would hang around where, he was getting some attention. And boy, Ford's Theater, and they've got all kinds of stuff up there has to do with him.
Right.
So why wouldn't he be drawn?
Yeah, it's pretty. That's pretty interesting. I've been an empath my entire life, and so I always say for me, because you were talking about the lady where all the spirits were drawn to her house. Yeah, I always use that analogy, a lighthouse in the dark, because that's what I feel like sometimes if I'm not, protecting myself and kind of blocking a lot of it out. It reminds me, like in my head, what I see is like in the movie Ghost, when Whoopi Goldberg has them like lined up, and she finally says, "Okay, enough for today," and they all just stand up and go through the walls.
Yep.
That's what it feels like sometimes.
Yep, exactly, and that's I use that reference an awful lot because as silly as a lot of some of that movie was, they got a lot of it right.
Yeah.
Where Patrick Swayze's character takes so long just to push that penny up the wall. And that's why I think I try to tell people, listen, your loved ones are trying to give you signs, and then you talk yourself out of it. You have no idea how, if you're going to be on the fence about something, why not be on the fence to the good stuff?
Yeah.
Why not say, okay, that feather probably came from my mom, or probably came from my friend that I've been, grieving for a while, or whatever. I tell people, go with your first intuition, that first feeling you got when you saw it. If it made you feel good, to see that cardinal land, if you were thinking about your dad and he really liked cardinals. Your dad's not the cardinal,
right?
But for some reason, they can manipulate through their energy different things to show up, like butterflies and feathers and Apport pennies, and I got one the other day, and it has to do with the date. So stop and think, what were you thinking about at the time? It's like when you get in the car and you're humming a song you hadn't heard in 20 years, and you get in the car and it's playing on the radio. Is that song mean something to you? Is somebody that's passed, relevant to that, or something along the lines? If yes, you're already halfway there. Why are you talking yourself out of it? Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because they're going to stop doing it, for one thing.
Right.
When you connect in and you say, oh, thank you so much. It could be a spirit guide. It could be, maybe not call my name if you don't know. It's like, thank you for that. I needed that boost. And they'll do it more because now you just gave them good energy and positive thought. And it's a whole lot better than, oh, that's just crazy. I'm not going to pay attention to that. Walking on. And then you complain and wonder why you never hear anything or get I get it all the time, man. I get it all the time. It's like, why are they not,
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Grief and being negative is definitely a way to make it stop. And,
Yeah.
you're not drawing the right stuff.
Talking about the pennies, you're not just talking about people just finding pennies necessarily. I've heard stories of people being like in the, grocery store in an aisle and a penny falling from the ceiling and landing right in front of them. And then it'll be a significant date on it. And like, how do you explain that? It's not like somebody's on the other side of the aisle throwing pennies over at you that just happen to have 1973 on it because that's a year that means something to you.
Yeah. And, some, people like really work for it. Listen, what harm are you doing? If you think, dad's giving me pennies or mom's sending me feathers or, my sister's sending me a cardinal, and it makes you feel good, where's the harm in that?
Right.
To poo-poo it and think it's crazy, well, there is harm in that because you're robbing yourself of the good feeling and you're robbing them of experiencing that good feeling with you, which also does them good. I did it. You want to hear a wild experiment? This will blow your mind.
Yeah, yeah.
This is like next level. If after 50 years you don't get to somewhere. That's why I say I don't know anything because I can look back at experiences I had and I was darn sure it was because of this and it went this way and this is why. And then you learn more and you look back at it again with new eyes and new consciousness and new understanding and you say, you know what, it was more. It was so much more, A quick example. My mom passed when I was 12. It was a horrible situation. It was just the two of us. I had older brothers and sisters spread all over the country. Okay. I mean, the youngest when I was born, I think she was 17. So this is a big gap there. There's 7 of us. Yeah. They're all older. So it was really just me and my mom. And when she passed, she was still in the hospital. I had to go to another state to be with family because she wasn't coming out of the hospital. So I'm in this new place and I wake up, and this is in the book. I wake up, this happened several times. The first time it happened, I open my eyes and you know how like you'll sleep on your head on the pillow and you got your hand on the pillow next to your face?
Yeah.
When I opened my eyes, I could see my hand and I'm just kind of getting my whereabouts and stuff. And there's a hand on my hand. And I just, with my eyes only, I followed the hand up. And there's my mom in the hospital gown, the whole thing, like the last time I saw her, sitting on the bed with her head down, kind of like asleep, like she's resting. She's got her hand on my hand. And that point, I'm startled and I turn to look at her fully and say, Mom, at the same time. And she just kind of turned and looked at me at the same time and in not a twinkling, not a speckling, not a buzzing out, just poof, gone with a surprised look on her face. Now, for most of my life, now this, like I said, happened several times, different places in the room. She'd be standing, she'd be sitting in the chair, she'd be, all this different stuff. And I get into big detail in the book because I explain it in the book because if somebody else has had this experience, I want you to, okay, that's similar to me. That didn't happen, but I did hear that sound, that kind of stuff. Because you can validate your own experience if somebody just tells you the truth of what happened without embellishing or changing anything.
Right.
Once you start warping it, you're not helping anybody because it's not the same as theirs and they can't compare it. You see my point?
Yeah.
So I always thought those true stories. So I always thought for a long time, especially as a teenager, I thought, man, I really screwed up because I can remember a conversation having with my mom in the car. We were talking a little bit about ghosts and I remember telling her, man, I don't ever, that scares me. I don't like it when they just pop up like that and I don't want to be scared. And, I was kind of taking that route and that was one of the last conversations we had. So I thought as a child who had just lost her mother, I really screwed up and I'm not going to get to talk to her because she thinks I'm going to be scared. And that's why she keeps popping out.
Yeah.
And not staying when she realizes I've seen her. She's just gone. And I was just devastated about it. I don't know how to put that into words. And for decades, I kept thinking, things similar. And then I started to learn a little bit here, a little bit there. Well, here just recently, the past couple of years, talking to different people, I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe she was shocked to see me as much as I was her because she wasn't there deliberately.
Yeah.
And what do I mean by that? I'm thinking maybe she was just in her place, the way she went out and in pain and terrible cancer and alone, she was wherever she was in her vantage point, and I was wherever I was in my vantage point, and the love.
Yeah.
She was thinking of me. I was thinking of her. And we both connected without even realizing it. We were both in the same space. And she was just as surprised to be there as I was for her to be. That makes sense because she had not crossed yet. She was still in what I call her death echo, her death state.
Yeah.
And later, once she had crossed, we went through a lot. That's where I started my whole crossing thing. Like, I don't want to hold you here. I'm fine. Trying to get rid of all that grief and started thinking about happy stuff, And eventually I know she crossed. So the night before I go into the Army, I'm getting ready to go basic training. And I'm not worried. I'm excited. I'm so excited to go. I mean, it wasn't a worried bone in my body. I had that, I was been training for years for it. Like I just couldn't wait for it to get here. So it wasn't fear that brought her, like, oh, she's scared. She's got a big thing tomorrow. No, it was just elation. And I'm asleep and I'm at my sister's house. Got all my rough packed and everything, and I hear the door open. She had a very distinctive back door, and I heard the door open, and I know it's late, and I think it's one of my younger nieces coming home late from curfew, and I kind of sat up to razz her a little bit, like, man, you better be quiet, you're going to get in trouble. And there's my mom standing there, just materialized in front of me. The light just kept getting bigger and twinkling bigger and made a shape and a form, and there was my mom. And I could feel the love and the warmth and the light before I ever really realized what was going on. The whole room was filled with love, warm feeling. And she's standing there smiling. She looks good. She's all fixed. She's all standing straight. She looks like she's going, to the office like I always saw her when she was going to work. Her hair's done, her makeup's done, big old smile on her face. Did not pick up any pain from her. Eric, when she used to show up in my room, I think the pain, me feeling her pain woke me up before anything else did as an empath. You can understand that.
Yeah, yeah.
So she's there. I'm not getting any of that. And then she starts talking to me, but she's not moving her mouth. So I'm getting all this telepathic in her voice. I could smell her. It was just amazing. It was just, I could smell her hair. I mean, her shampoo. It was just so vivid. And she tells me what she tells me. And she tells me that I'm not going to see her for a while, but she'll always be with me and that she can hear me. So just keep talking. I don't think I've stopped talking since. But that right there in between, I said in the book, my mother was my best teacher in life, my best teacher in death. And I've seen her multiple times and had multiple experiences with her over these past decades. But do you see how you look differently now after you open your mind and you look at things differently? Very much like I spoke of Ford's Theater in Lincoln. It's one thing that I could, offer to anyone who's doing investigations or has, any kind of occurrences in their life, whether it be your home, your office, or whatever. Don't always assume, find out. Because I can't imagine how frustrating it would be to be an earthbound spirit that's trying to unravel whatever basket of yarn of their life and their feelings and their emotions and trying to get everything together. And then you're calling him Bob.
Right.
Or Mr. Thomas, who used to live here. And no, man, I'm the gardener from the back. Can you help me here? To finally get somebody to talk to me that can hear me or that I can communicate with at least a little bit. And they think I'm Sally, who died of smallpox in 1893. No, it's me. It's me.
Right.
And that's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. And don't assume, just like the bugs that are, coming around that porch light you flicked on in the dark. Is every bug that's attracted to that light aware of the other bugs that are there? Not necessarily. They could all be. You could have 10 of them in the house, and some of them are aware of each other, and some are not.
Right.
It depends on their vantage point. So those things, I think, help investigators the most when it comes to that. And don't promise them something you're not willing to give,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And making them perform, all of this stuff and using up their energy. Try to get to the point where you can help them, if you can, if that's your intent. If you're just getting evidence and leading, then that's a different deal. But if you're there for them and to understand what we go through as human beings, both in this body and out of it, then those are some of the most profound conversations you'll ever have.
Yeah. I go into investigating out of respect, and I tell people, and I abide by this. I never say, "Do you want me to leave?" And people are like, "Why not?" And I said, "Because if they tell me, yeah, then I'm leaving.
I gotta go.
Yeah,
I gotta go
because I came here respectfully to talk to them if they're willing to talk to me, and that's what they want, and that's what I ask. Now, if they just tell me on an EVP, get out, then we're gonna, we'll kind of change the conversation and be like, well, why do you want us to leave? And try to understand, why. But yeah, and I tell people, don't ever ask about death, because that'll shut you down right there.
Yeah. Again, you can't assume that they know they're dead.
Right.
I had a guy in a bar once. He wasn't sad, but it was a sad thing because I had to walk away because it's their free will. You can't drag somebody. Well, I guess you could. That's done, but it's more of their free will to be there. So I'm at this bar, and I was asked to join this one because they could get a little bit, but they were getting very broke up. You got to wonder, why does the ghost just come in? Hey, look, I died in a car accident over there. I'm looking for my kids. I don't know where my kids went. My name is Bob McFarland, and, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
That's not how it comes. It comes in broken stuff.
Right.
Why? I can't explain that. Different frequencies. Sometimes they sound like they're talking to a fan. It's just so many different aspects to this. But if you can get them through time, calmly, and have a good communicator there, this is what we were doing with this one guy who's in the bar. Now, what his stick was, the jukebox come on and off, the pool balls would fall, you put the quarters in the pool table and you hear the balls fall and they all come down. You have to put quarters in. Well, he could do it without quarters. Just different things like that. He wasn't a ruffian, so he didn't start bar fights and stuff like that. But he'd pinch some butts and do some stuff like that. You could tell when he was around. So anyway, it turned out that this guy was at a wedding. And he went home drunk. He lived down the tracks a little bit and could go down the tracks from the bar and take a left and go in a couple of yards, and he would be at his house. So he leaves drunk, way too drunk, passes out on the train tracks, gets decapitated, and died. And for some reason, it took him a while to find this guy because they weren't going down the track. So he was there like all night. Pretty awful. So anyway, he liked the bar, so he would always go to the bar. And yeah, he had a head. When you did see him, when he let you materialize, you could see him. He had a head. He wasn't walking around with his head in his hands.
Yeah.
But it took several of us to talk to him, and I'm like, look, we got to cut this chase here. I'm like, dude, this is your free will. Nobody can make you cross if you don't want to. If you don't have anybody over there that you want to see, and you don't have, he was fine. He understood that this was a bar. He liked the bar. He liked hanging out here. And I kind of said to him, listen, I get that this is where you want to stay, but how long do you think it's going to take for another group of people that can communicate with you to come in here and do this again?
Yeah.
I need to leave you with some stuff. If you ever want to go, just look up. Your light, you're connected to it. You can't unconnect yourself from it. You can dim it. You can't disconnect to it. It's your source. Your energy. It belongs to you. Some people call it a divine spark, your inner light, your chi, whatever you want to call it. It's you and it's your energy and you're connected to that source. So look up. Don't walk around with your head down shuffling, because that's what a lot of them do. So I told him, I said, look, you can blink. Time is different for you. You could blink. It could be 200 years. This place could be a parking lot or heaven knows what. And you're not going to have the familiar around you anymore. So I want to leave you with the knowledge that you have the power that anytime you wish, you just think of the love, think of your loved ones, think of the light, look up, connect in, and you go. Don't get stuck here, because over time, they can become very agitated and very erratic, and the energy starts to get twisted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the thing too. It's like, not all of them want to cross over, at least at that time, because they think it's all going to stay like this. Hey, I'm having a ball,
Right.
I can do this. I can go stand in the ladies' bathroom, whatever that does for people. I don't know. But that kind of stuff. He had it down. He thought he had it all together. And when we said that to him, his energy got really a little bit low. He was thinking about it. I'm like, all right, I got to go. I got things to do. So we're going to cross. Or we're going to go. Because that's it. Some of them have no intention whatsoever for beliefs or fear or. Lynn told one the other night, it was great, and she was at the hospital and she was going through and she felt this energy and it was this, she was kind of playing peekaboo with this one ghost, like was kind of hiding behind the column. And she said, you can come out, it's okay. And he kind of stepped in because you could see me, it's like, it's always, with her, she's just can see them like sixth sense.
Right.
And, this guy had his stuff together. He was dressed up much like your Dillards guy. He was dressed to the nines, and she called him Dapper Dance. And she was talking to him, and she said, well, the person, there's people in there in the light, because she had just left a room where somebody was passing over, and her whole room was filled with her loved ones and serial beings and just all the, different people there that helping her transition over, And she says, if you want to cross, you can just walk right in that room. You can go with them. It's okay, but, you can go in the light. He goes, nah, I don't want to go. She said, well, can I ask you why? And he said, well, my wife and my mistress are both dead and they're up there and I don't want to face either one of them. Oh gosh. She said before she left, and much like I just said, before she left, she said, well, it's your free will and you can decide at any time. And she explained how I just did. And, I told him and he said, well, I'm not going to do that for a while. And she said, they're probably getting along over there. And it's not what you think. It's
right.
not, it's not, they're not going to beat you over the head with, cast iron skillets or nothing, It's a little different. They've already dealt with all that stuff. You got to go deal with it now, But I think that's the biggest thing that holds them back is fear, regret, care for a loved one that's awful grief. Is very much like I believe my mother did. Because can you imagine what she was going through?
Yeah.
Saving a child and didn't know where I was and what was going on. And,
right.
And which she confirmed later through a medium. And I wasn't looking for the answers. I don't even, if I'm sitting with one and I say, if there's anything that comes through I need to hear, tell me. I don't even go and say, I want to talk to this one and I want it to be like this and I wanted to hear this. And, I'm just at the point, just tell me what I need to know.
Right.
And when she came through and she was able to finally speak, I believe that's what it was. She was like, I abandoned you. I'm like, no, I abandoned you. We both had it wrong. We both cared for each other. And I thought, I'm fine. I'm glad you're fine. And then we started getting to it, helping other people together. Got past all that stuff. So if you could do anything, anybody that's listening right now, if you've got that aching, gnawing thing, you should talk to your friend that meant a lot to you. And, it's a phone call, pick it up. It's so much easier to do it now than it is to wait for a telephone with a light to walk into your life, like a medium or somebody like that can communicate. It's so much easier to do it now because it seems that that's what the dead are dying to tell us.
Yeah, I used to, when I was younger, because I was trying to figure out the whole empath thing and how to control it somewhat, turn it on, turn it off, put my guard up and things like that I've learned now over the years. But I always thought it was a curse. And then my mother passed away and she came to me in a dream and we're sitting in this like park area, these big trees in this field. And we're sitting at in my dream, we're sitting at this picnic table. And she looks happy and healthy, and she sits down and basically says, I'm okay. And we kind of have a conversation. And I thought, okay, well, I just had a dream about her, And then I had two of my aunts pass away, and both of them have came to me in the exact same setting. It's the exact same thing.
Dream.
Yeah.
Visitation dream.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's when I started to understand, okay, well, this is not necessarily a curse. There are benefits to this as well. And also the fact that, I read living people very well too. because it's all energy, and that served me pretty well of surrounding myself with good people throughout my life.
Yeah. And it makes a difference, doesn't it? Like for me, the hardest thing for me was like going to a mall or a Walmart.
Yeah.
It was even harder than a hospital.
Yeah.
You know, in some places hospitals are really bad, you know, for me. But it's a very oppressive thing, you know, a battlefield like Gettysburg.
Yeah.
You know, walking up to the battlefield, it feels like when you go to the dentist and they put that, right before they do x-rays, they put that heavy weighted vest on you.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it feels like. You've just got heavy.
Yeah, I'm with you.
know?
That's how I feel too. And
Yep.
sometimes it's almost like a repelling magnet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything in your being is telling you to get away from the situation of this person. And
intuition.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I tell everybody's got abilities. We just talk ourselves out of them. Like, you know, if you observe nature, and I was taught my native, you know, the different people that gave me their Native American traditions and thoughts, because when I was little, they still weren't talking about it. They were still, you know, we're immigrants. We're not, you know,
right.
Because we lived, I don't know if a lot of people know it, but, you know, it was kind of tough being Native American for a couple of 100 years. There still is. But when my great grandmother and my grandmother and my mom was able to talk about it a little bit more, she was more outputting with it. But they were still, they'd whisper stuff to you just so nobody would hear. Like it's a deep, dark secret. Nobody should find out because, you know, that's sad. But even like showing herbs and stuff to me in the woods, you know, she'd say, you know, stuff about things in the woods that we don't speak of because they hear you. The minute you say their name, they connect into your energy and they're aware of you now.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then we'd start talking about, you know, rice-a-roni or stuff. I was like, wait. Go back to the things in the woods. What? You know, like, you know, but no, subject was changed. You know, you got to wait for the next little thing to come through.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, oh, we got to talk about it. No. But, you know, little by little, you start to realize it's respect, you know. You know, they tell me you go in the woods and everything goes quiet. You don't even turn around, and while you back up in the same footprints as you had before, and you get yourself out of that situation, you know.
Yeah.
Things like that, you know. And when my grandmother told me, she said, "Don't worry, you can, you know, enjoy it. You go with the past, stay in the past." And she explained all this to a little girl, you know. And she said, "I just don't want them." When I was talking about the scary things the woods we didn't talk about, she goes, "Not all of them are. Just as good and as bad." And she said some in the same group, just like people, you know, because that's a life lesson, you know, judge them one at a time, not as a group. Odd concept, right? So so she would tell me, she goes, "I don't want you to be scared." She goes, "I just don't want them to take you with them." And I'm like, "Take me where?" Nope, subject's changed. We're going on to something else now. So wait, who's going to take me where with what? You know?
Yeah, I need to be prepared.
And then you get a little, and then you get the next little bit where it's like, you know, where I'm being told that Sasquatch, that's what she calls it. And she had other names for him too. Oh gosh, I can't remember what it was off the top of my head now. It was something like ethereal being, something like that. But it was her own little quirky thing for it. But she said that they can move in between worlds. She was talking about portals. You know, not portholes. I said portals. On a ship. We all crawl in and out this round window. No, a portal. You know, and things like that, but in her way.
Yeah.
You know, and then you go, you have that information for 20 years. And you go, what was she talking about? You know, and then it all just starts snapping together. Wow, okay. Oh, good. You know, don't get drugged into a portal, you know, by things that you cannot name. Okay. Jack, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, it does make you interested to dig deeper. And then, you know, 20, 30 years later, you hear something that matches that and things start making sense.
Yeah.
You know, a little by little. But that's just it. You know, to anybody listening, be open-minded enough to accept new ideas and new theories, but not so open-minded your brain falls out. You know, because some of the things that people are putting out there, just what, you know, that's to sell a show or to sell a trinket or, you know, whatever, you know. But just imagine if you were the ghost in the house and how would you want to be treated? What would you want? You know, what frame of mind are you in? Are you somebody that you committed suicide and OD'd and you're still in that frame of mind? I'm not saying that all suicides or ODs do that. I'm saying if that person was, this could create something, an accident where you're not really sure. And one of the saddest things I've ever seen is ghosts that are walking around a car trying to figure out what's going on in a junkyard.
Yeah.
You know, they're still attached to that car. Not everybody is. Every individual is an individual. It's not the same, you know, and when you think ghosts are all the same, you can look at the people around you, go stand in line at a Wawa or a Quick Check or a ShopRite or Walmart and look at all the different people around you, just in your small little area. Everybody's similar, but they're different. They're going to react different. They're going to speak differently. They're going to think differently, even if they're looking at the same thing. And you can't treat ghosts any different because they're all, and then they have that added bonus of not being alive anymore.
Right.
And trying to deal with, I just did it in the kitchen. I walked in and my son and my husband are standing in the kitchen and they're doing their plates and stuff like that. And I walked in and I said something and I got no reaction, not a twitch, not a look, not a word. And then I said something else. And it happened again, and I'm like, "Holy shit! Is this what it's like to feel? It's like it feels like to be a ghost."
Right.
Because and it just hit me for a second, like, "Wow, this is sucks," you know. And you're trying to I'd pick up something and start banging, you know, because they're reacting to that sound. Okay, now I've got something that people are reacting to. I'm going to bang all the time because I know how to do. I've figured out how to do that. So that's a different way of looking at it when you take yourself out of that and take yourself out of the, you know, the shows and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that they're all crap, but, well, it's like anything else. Blood cells and, you know.
Yeah.
It's on the news for Pete's sake. So that's the thing. It's just if you're going in expecting to see something like that, you're already going in negative. And I'm telling you, it's as simple as the law of attraction.
Yeah.
You're going to attract that.
That's kind of what I've been preaching a little bit on the show, especially toward the end of second season, was telling people, you know, a lot of things have to do in the paranormal have to do with your intention. And so, like, you know, people are afraid of Ouija boards and things like that. Well, okay, well, it scared you when you were a kid, but you went in with the intention of getting scared. So something came through it to scare you. And now that you're an adult and if you go into using that same Ouija board or spirit board or pendulum or whatever, and you have the intention of, you know, connecting to somebody good and you have that light that you're putting out there, then that's what you're going to get back.
Totally different. Yep.
Yeah.
And I got to add in the caveat that there's not a lot of ethereal beings and higher vibrational souls wandering around waiting for some teenagers to pull out a Ouija board.
Right.
They're more lower level earthbound spirits that are negative to begin with. Not negative as far as evil, just negative people. Like you said earlier, I call them ass souls.
Yeah.
Because if you're an asshole in life, you're going to be an asshole in death.
Yeah.
And nothing's changing. If you haven't crossed over, you're still the same as you were, before.
Right.
And probably more agitated. And probably trying to figure out what these people are doing in your kitchen. Because if that's what you see, that's what you see.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like The Others was great in that. The movie bothered me.
Yeah.
I think it was the cinematography. I don't know what it was about. This damn keys made me nuts. But you kind of get the idea, spoiler alert, that the people you're seeing are the ghosts.
Right.
And the people, they think the people that are living there, the living beings, are the ghosts.
Right.
And it flip-flops on you. And the whole time her husband is trying to come back, trying to get her to listen. But she's so agitated. I had a case where I was, and it was a man, an older man, and I can't remember how he passed. Doesn't matter. He's basically sitting at the kitchen table like he always did, chain smoking, drinking coffee, yelling at the stuff in the paper. This is his afterlife at this point. And he's stuck there. And every once in a while, his world bleeds into this one. Very similar to, think about a book. For anybody who's listening, that, nice thick book, and somehow it gets wet. And when you open it up, and you can see the pages, and you can see the page you're looking at very clearly. You can see the print, but you can also see a little of the print from the other pages bleeding through because it's gotten wet, and somehow they've connected and overlapped into each other's world. That's kind of what it's like. So he's sitting there, and things will bang, and, you know, cabinet door kind of things and stuff like this going on. Nothing, you know, major to the point of, you know, the kids aren't flying around the living room. So he's sitting at 25 years this guy's doing. And going through this whole case and the communication and the, you know, it's like I said, it's like paranormal therapy, and you go into all this. Here's his wife who has crossed. They've seen her. They thought she was a ghost too. Well, she kind of is, but she would cross. She was a visitation spirit. She keeps coming back to that house to try to talk him into crossing over. He can't hear her.
Yeah.
He can't see her. He's not aware of her. A few times she said, a couple of times it seemed like he was kind of getting there, like he hear her voice or something, but then he'd just go back to his grumbling and his agitation and shut her right off. And he did not see her till we could get him to understand and got him connected back into that love energy and his own light. And then he looked up like it was the first time he had seen her since she had passed.
Wow.
And then they walked, and then they went off together. But it took a lot. Right. So if you think you're going to get an EMF meter and a recorder and walk into a house, and because you heard "help me," that little Sarah that died of smallpox in, you know, the 1800s, you know, is there, and you brought her a teddy bear, and all that's great. Well, here's the news. You can have all that evidence. You know, you got it on your recorder. You've got the EMF meter went up, and the REM pod went off, all the right things. But that little girl is a little girl.
Right. It's
something materializing as a little girl. It sucks you in, you know. So that's why I think that we've come almost full circle. You know, you mentioned Ghost Adventures. Well, Ghost Hunters, when they came out, and the whole thing was, if you read some of their books and stuff they did before, they had a great reason for coming together. Very hesitant to be on the TV show to begin with. But once you get on there and you get the car, then you need the paycheck, and then the producers are doing this, and then, you know, right. The next thing you know, every time you step on a board, it says demon. So, or whatever it was that they were doing. So again, you know, it was great because it showed people a lot of stuff, but they came at it and said, we're taking all the feeling out of this, and we're going pure science. We're going to try to see if it's plumbing. Nothing wrong with that. But there's also more, and they started doing that where, you know, you figure out what's going on with the family. There's divorce going on, or you have a child that's got abilities, the wife maybe have abilities, or the father, and they're suppressing it, so it's causing this PK kind of stuff phenomenon where their energy is the one that's throwing stuff all around the kitchen, and, you know, they just need to learn how to control it and get a different outlet, meditation or grounding, and, you know, there's so much involved in it. You can't just walk in there with a recorder and get "help me" or "get out" and think that you've got the answer to it, because you might have 20 ghosts in there.
Right.
You can't even say that the ghost that you've got on that recorder is a ghost that's from that house. You could have brought the ghost with you.
Right.
I'm just saying, there's so much more. So you need all of those things, I think. You know, in my humble opinion, all of those things. I think the tech is great. I think the tech, you know, all the technology, I don't understand a lot of it. I use dowsing rods if I'm alone and I need a confirmation. But, you know, that's great, but I think you need to keep the feeling in, because you're dealing with human beings that happen to be dead.
Right.
And they have feelings. They're feeling things. You don't know what, but if you start taking intuition and your abilities out of it and just go cold science, you're going to be there all night, honey, and you don't even know who you're talking to.
Yeah, that's another big thing that I'll tell people is, like, you know, the best instrument that you got, yeah, the tech is great and we use it, but the best instrument you have is your own body.
Right. Oh, yeah. You know, go out there and tell the rabbit who's happy eating clover and everything's cool, nice, beautiful sunny day, same clover patch he goes to 2-3 times a day. His little rabbit hutch hole thing is not too far. He recognizes everything around him. All of a sudden, he freezes. And he listens and feels for the vibration and he uses all his intuition because he knows doggone good and well there's a hawk in the tree above him.
Right.
You know, it's his intuition. He doesn't talk himself out of it. He goes with his feelings. And if you pay attention to your own yard, you know, or go to the park, and listen, the chipmunk is sending out a warning prey signal. The chickadee, the tiniest little things in the yard, are all sending out signals to warn everybody out there that there's something around. And if you're going to go into a house, think about that in nature. You're the rabbit. You know, you got to listen for the chickadee and the chipmunk and the warning signs and your warning signs and your hairs on the back of your neck, your solar plex, where everything is hitting you right in the center. If you're feeling like there's bad, don't keep pushing forward unless you know what you're doing.
Right.
You know, do what my grandmother said and back up. you know, if you're going in there without protection and without your own stuff, you know, whatever your faith base is, or your crystals, or, you know, there's so many different things. And people often wonder about that too. They'll say, oh, yeah, talk about religion. Listen, honey, religion, you know, spirituality, that's something different to me. And it's been around a lot longer, you know?
Right.
And the thing is whatever you're dealing with, whether it's a human spirit or something else, you better know the tool you need to deal with that. It's not really up to you and your choice. There's certain things that work for certain things. You shouldn't go at, you can probably try it, but you shouldn't fix a Mercedes-Benz with an egg beater. It's
right.
just the wrong tool for the job. And that's the same way you look at that. So if you go into a house, like to say to help them cleanse it or something like that, I always ask people, do you have a faith base where, you know, what are your beliefs so we can add that in? I don't care if it's Buddha and this and, you know, Confucius, Sun Tzu, Jesus, Mary, Archangel Michael, you know, what are you dealing with? You got a jinn? You better get somebody in there that knows how to deal with a jinn.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're not going to listen when you go in there doing the Lord's Prayer or something. Yeah. Right.
You know, I mean, it's going to have an effect, but, you know, some of the smartest things I've seen that come over the decade is, you know, okay, you've got an issue at a house and it turns out to be that it was, you know, Indian burial ground. People say that a lot, but I'm telling you, this whole place is Indian burial ground. And before them, it was, you know, prehistoric people. Just there's been stuff on this land forever.
Right.
You know, going back for as long as you can imagine. And there are ghosts that are that old that will come, you know, that will still come through, that are still pissed at something that happened. So, you know, if you have something like that, you can go to the local clan and the local, you know, chiefs or medicine men or shaman or whatever to bring them in and bring that part of it in and try to appease them that way. Something they understand. Then you're really getting somewhere. It's like if you go to the Gettysburg battlefield. The first thing I did when I walked on there is trying to imagine if they can see me. Once they said they could see me, I apologized for wearing pants.
Yeah.
I know it sounds silly, but I'm like, I know I probably look strange to you. And you have to also understand, how did they speak back then? What were their beliefs? Who are you speaking to? You walk into a group of soldiers in, you know, in Fredericksburg or Gettysburg or something like that, and you're just all hyped up and you're throwing out a lot of slang and stuff like that, they're going to think you're an absolute idiot.
Right.
They're either not going to respond to you, because not all ghosts want to talk into your little box. They just stand there and look at you like these idiots here, you know. And that goes back way back. It goes back to Harry Price in 1938 and Peter Underwood. If you don't know these people, whoever's listening, please go look them up, because say what you want about Harry Price. He was out there trying. He was famous for the Borley Mansion and you know, going in there, locking himself in with college student volunteers to try to understand what was going on. And he had a lot of gadgets and stuff like that, and probably a little trickery in there too. But
right.
They, even a broke, you know, clock is right twice a day.
Right.
So he'd go in there and he'd find stuff, which he told the next group how to play off of that, try to learn more and more and more. Peter Underwood, very good, but he tells a great story about one night they set up an investigation. This had to be 50s maybe. I want to say 50s, early 60s. You can look it up. You know, he's got a great thing called Ghost Watch and everything. He's long past, but he left a lot of good info. So he was doing an investigation. Very much probably looks like everybody's investigation kit, except the cameras were bigger and clunkier and things like that. But small, reel-to-reel recorders or whatever. And they set up, and then they left for the night. And basically, it was just a camera pointed at the stairs where people were reporting hearing footsteps coming up and down the stairs. So, of course, they planted this camera there. And I think it took, one of those things where you could squeeze it, it would take pictures off. It's not going to do that much on its own, but they left a recorder. They were coming back in the morning to take all their pictures, but they left the recorder. And on the recorder, they got two distinct voices. One male voice that said, "It's looking at us." And the other one said, the lady said something along the lines of, "They're spying." Like she was like you could hear the inflection in her voice the way he said, "They're looking at it," like trying to understand what the hell this camera thing on a tripod was.
Yeah.
And she said, "They're spying." The way she said, like, she was just, she was like mortified in her voice, the way you could hear. It was strange to hear. But you could hear that inflection. It was just so profound. And he said it was a shame that they didn't, back then, have cameras so they could leave them rolling. What could they have gotten if they could? But of course, they weren't invented at that time.
Yeah.
For like we have. But it was incredible. Just that little piece right there. It's like, okay, well, they're looking at the cameras and they're seeing this stuff, but they're trying to figure out what it is, and they're, kind of put off by it. So those two ghosts, probably when they showed up the next, they got nothing else from that place. As long as they spent their days, whatever, it was the Ghost Hunter Society in England. He was the president of it for decades. So they have a lot of interesting stuff. But those little things like that, if you listen to them, they teach you so much,
Yeah.
And then, like I said, they go back the next day, get nothing because they were just put off by the whole thing.
Yeah, because they think they're spying on them, so they're not gonna kind of tiptoe around. After that.
Yeah. It's incredible. And then you go to a place, you think of, let's just name one, Lizzie Borden House, where the ghosts there, I mean, I think that place is probably filled with tulpas and, these created energy things from all the negativity, which can happen. And that's your real poltergeist right there. Poltergeist has been kicked around a lot. I know it means noisy ghost out of German, but there are these like energy forms that just come from all this like negativity and stuff that's happened. And over time, it can get energy and kind of become its own thing.
Yeah.
But there's so many people going in there and just the same stuff and calling these spirits and bringing them back. Can you imagine what it's like? You're crossed over, you're trying to go about your own stuff, and these people just keep calling you back, and that's got to be extremely irritating.
Yeah, my buddy Lee says, they must be like, well, shit, now I got to go do some ghost shit, when they see us walk in the door.
Yep. And, I don't think a lot of them are there. From what I understand from people that are wiser than I'll ever be and much more ability that have gone in there have basically said that it's just the constant in and out and the constant drawing and the constant, that anything that is earthbound in that place is really suffering to the constant bothering.
Yeah.
It's not doing them any good.
Yeah.
So, it just makes me sad. Because like I said, if it was me, I can't imagine how frustrating it would be. It's almost like I want to give a class on how not to be a ghost 101. But there you go. And I think in reality, I think that's what we're all trying to find out.
Yeah.
Not so much how not to be a ghost, but what happens? How can we prevent it? Is there anything we can do now that'll help? Yes, there is. Plenty. There's absolutely plenty. I've already named one. Call the people you want to talk to that keeps bothering you in the back of your head, that sister or that friend. And what's it going to hurt? Because wouldn't you rather have it over in 30 seconds than, 30 years? That you're drawn back here to try to get it fixed then. It's so much harder to get them to listen to you. And then if they do see you, you're probably scared of the hell out of them,
right.
or You're going to keep sending butterflies and pennies and flipping your picture over and, you know, and doing stuff like that. And they're going to ignore it and think that you're crazy. I mean, you've got a long, hard haul ahead of you. Do it now. Finish it now.
Well, Sysco, I thank you so much for coming on and chatting. I've really enjoyed it. I love hearing your stories, and you've just got such a lifetime of experiences, and you and Steve have definitely taught me a lot over the past few years that I've known y'all. And I love coming on y'all's show, on your show too, and chatting. Always have a blast.
Yes, we need to come back. You know, come back before boo season is over. Let's get you in, and we'll talk all about it. You know.
Yeah. Just let me know.
You know, and I hope people, if they want the book, it's real. You know, you can get a real cheap version. I mean, if you don't have a lot of money, it's tight right now. The ebook.
Yeah.
You know, you know, and you can get it in print. I'm absolutely still in love with the cover. The way it happened was so wild. Never met the guy, but I went through his work and bam, there it was. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. That's how I feel. So people standing behind the gate and everything. It was crazy. But the book, Steve was the one who pushed me to write it. And basically I just wrote the chapters and wrote some of the things that have happened to me. This is by no means all of them. But I tried to put the ones in there that taught me something that could maybe teach other people. And one, you know, some that I put up there where I got no freaking idea. Still don't, you know,
right.
Because, you know, things happen and you just, oh man, what was that?
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, that's in there too. But the title of it is We Are All Children in the Wilderness of the Afterlife, A Guided Towards a Haunted Life. And people wonder why I called it that. Well, the reason I called it that is because the afterlife to me is like the last frontier.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you think you know or what you've been told. You don't really know till you get there.
Right.
And it's kind of going into it innocently like a child where you're just learning, like it's a wonderment. And maybe if we start looking at it like that, you know, understand that life is precious and try to be happy. And, you know, if you can make other people happy around you, you've done it. You've lived a good life, man.
Right.
You know, like Grandpa Walton always said, life is hard work and love. And if you can smile along the way, you're a lucky person.
Yeah.
Then try to make that. And that's how not to be a ghost 101.
And everybody,
love you, baby.
Everybody you need to go check out Sysco's show on YouTube, Journey Through the Gate Paranormal Portal Podcast. And you usually do multiple lives throughout the week. And also my audience absolutely loves Steve Stockton like I do. And he is on there a lot with you.
Yeah, Mondays. We do Monday Madness with Steve, and Sundays I have guests, or we do like we just did. We did a great big block of Lincoln. If you think you know Lincoln, I beg to differ. And because we did 16 hours for the 16th president, and there was multiple episodes. Don even came on and compared the whole thing to Caesar. So there's a lot of history, a lot of rabbit holes in that whole thing, a lot of conspiracy, a lot of like wow stuff. And you know, we'll do that, or we might have a guest, or we just might, you know, get together and watch a couple clips from an old ghost show from the 70s, like In Search of or something, and talk about it. Got a great live chat in there, great gatekeepers, and we're always slinging bacon and love back and forth to each other. And it's a great place to be. 8 p.m. Eastern time, Sundays and Monday nights. And Monday night, Steve Stockton is usually there with his stories and his whole big old hat full of wonderful ideas and accounts and, you know, and everything else. He's my dear, dear friend. And I'm forever grateful that he pushed me to write the book because it seems to have helped a couple people. And, you know, it's just a continuous chain of let's learn together because nobody has all the answers and nobody's an expert in this one.
Right.
Not even the ghosts claim to be experts.
Yeah.
So if they don't know, you know, and the ones that do know won't tell us.
Yeah.
You know, they come over and give us little snippets here and there, but it all seems to be pretty good. You know, just remember, energy is never destroyed and love is eternal.
Thank you so much, Sysco. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, love.
All right, everybody. Y'all stay safe out there. We'll see you next time. Have a good day. Join us next time for a new episode of The Unseen Paranormal. Until then, head over to the Unseen Paranormal Lounge on Facebook for all the latest updates and discussions about the show. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, or at unseenparanormalpodcast.com. And please rate, review, share, and subscribe to help more people discover the show. The Unseen Paranormal Podcast is proud to be the ambassador for paranormal for Verbal.com. A big thank you to my friend Chris Lips for the awesome theme music. You can find more of his music on Apple, Amazon, or Spotify. And as always, thank you for listening.